Han Sen quietly snuck back into the goddess shelter and put away his beetle knight. Han Sen thought to himself, now, where can I find and slay a second-generation super creature so that I can fill up my super geno points? Becoming a surpasser meant he'd become a champion, and he'd have little reason to worry about the events of the Alliance. Aside from celestial beings, it'd be impossible for him to be threatened as well. Because of this, Han Sen wanted to become a surpasser as soon as he could. He needed to be stronger so he could not only protect himself, but his family also. Han Sen was wondering whether or not he should resume his super creature hunt on Devil's Mountain. But while he was in thought, young Manly approached to tell him that someone wanted to see him. Didn't I tell you I don't want to see anyone these days? Han Sen frowned. I wasn't sure if Captain Qin counted as anyone. Therefore, I have come to double-check with you, young Manly said, looking at Han Sen. Qin Xuan is here. What are you waiting for? Send her in. Han Sen was happy to hear of her arrival. There are others accompanying her, however, and they are not from our special squad. I am afraid you will have to meet with them as well, young Manly explained. Who are they? When Han Sen saw young Manly's face, he knew they must be important figures. I don't know who they are, but Captain Qin treats them with much respect and politeness. There is also a young man amongst them, who acts as if he has a crush on the aforementioned captain, young Manly said with a smile. Han Sen went to the meeting room post-haste and saw Qin Xuan engaged in conversation with a few others. Han Sen, allow me to introduce you. This is Angel Jean's director, Mr. Zhao. Qin Xuan saw Han Sen approach and immediately introduced those in her company. When Han Sen heard her mention Angel Jean, he quickly understood why the people with her had such proud looks. The Alliance had two organizations that excelled in the field of gene research. One was Donglin and the other was the Zhao family, called Angel Jean. Han Sen had heard a lot about the Zhao family's pride, as a lot of their family members were councilmen. The Zhao family's influence was so great, they had even been known to affect the entire swing of presidential elections. This alone was an example of how powerful and influential their family was considered. As a result, they had every right to be cocky. Zhao Heng was one of the directors and played a pivotal role in the family. The young man amongst the people that had come to visit was called Zhao Heiyang. He was the chairman of Angel Jean and grandson of the organization's leader. Manly, come and pour tea for the Zhao director and Mr. Zhao. Han Sen believed the reason they had come to see him was because of his little angel. If that was the case, however, he wasn't sure why they had brought Qin Xuan with them. Of course, their association was not a strange one. The Zhao family had ties to a great number of different factions and organizations. You are Han Sen of the Zhai family, yes? Zhao Heng asked, as he looked at Han Sen. It was like an elderly asking any young person a question. I am Han Sen answered. Zhao Heng had believed him to be a true member of the Zhai family, and he wasn't sure what to say in response. Not long ago, I had a chat with Zhai Ruozhen. The topic of you came up, and from what I hear, you are quite nice, Zhao Heng said. Thank you for the compliment. Han Sen frowned, unsure what this old man was looking to sell. Although Zhai Ruozhen was younger than Zhao Heng, he had already achieved more than the old man had, and he was on the verge of becoming president. Zhao Heng was only one of the dozen directors of his family. The way he spoke would suggest he was superior to Zhai Ruozhen himself. His voice oozed arrogance. Qin Xuan noticed Han Sen's apparent displeasure at the company he had suddenly received, and quickly sought to remedy the situation. She said, the reason they have come here today is to request that you hunt a super creature on their behalf, or at least, it is a beast that looks like a super creature. But before Qin Xuan could continue speaking, Zhao Heiyang took over and said, you don't have to come, you can just sell us your super pet. There will be no difference. When Han Sen heard this, he did not look mad. He just thought it was strange that a person like Zhao Heiyang could have survived this long in this world. Sorry, I'm not selling my super pet. And I've been quite busy recently, so my schedule is full up for the foreseeable future. Han Sen never considered helping others hunt super creatures, particularly people like the Zhao family. Young man, please consider our request. Zhao Heng blurted out at the sight of Zhao Heiyang, who looked ready to blow his lid after the sudden rejection. Han Sen wanted to say something dismissive again, but Qin Xuan suddenly coughed and said, Director Zhao, please have a drink of tea. Han Sen, there is a classified document from the squad you should have a look at. I brought it over for you. Han Sen, in the exclusive company of Qin Xuan, exited the room and moved to his office. Team Qin, what's going on? Has the squad ordered me to help them? Qin Xuan had a wry smile, but she shook her head and said, no. If this was a matter concerning the squad, things would be simpler. After Qin Xuan explained, Han Sen understood. The Zhao family had many seats in the council, and Zhai Ruozhen's election was running so smoothly because of the backing of the Zhao family. No wonder that Zhao Heng randomly mentioned Jai Ruoxin. That's why, Han Sen coldly laughed, and then continued to say, I don't believe the Zhao family will stop supporting Jai Ruoxin due to my rejection. That Zhao Heng and Zhao Heiyang are only bluffing with their projection of power. The Zhao family's support for Jai Ruoxin provides them with benefits, too. You're right that they won't so simply give up supporting him. Qin Xuan had a brief pause, but then continued by saying, but think about it, if you reject Zhao Heng, and the Zhao family complains to Jai Ruoxin, is that something you can accept? Han Sen owned 5% of shares in Sky Technology. If something went bad during the election, and Jai Ruoxin was not made president, the stocks were sure to plummet. If Jai Ruoxin really was to become Han Sen's father-in-law, it seemed he would have no choice but to agree. You can still talk about the terms and conditions with the Zhao family. It's either talking about them with that lot or with Jai Ruoxin. Who would you rather have such a talk with? Qin Xuan smiled. Well, if things are like that, I'll go and help them, Han Sen said, with an evil smile. In an ancient forest resided a gentle spring and basin. It did not flow with water, nay, it flowed with blood. A creature guarded this spring, and had done so since it was born. The Zhao family believed this beast to be a super creature. They had done battle with it many times, and on each occasion, their forces were dealt grievous harm and forced to retreat. Fortunately for those that fought it, the super creature never left the spring it guarded. It never gave chase, and this allowed the Zhao family to continue provoking the beast and attempting the same fight many times. Han Sen and Zhao Heng hammered a deal out, and then Han Sen followed him out to the spring. Qin Xuan accompanied them, too. This pleased Han Sen because he had no fondness for the Zhao family, and he feared he'd die of boredom without someone he was fond of talking to being present on the journey. On the way, any creatures that sought to bar or prohibit their passage were dealt with by members of the Zhao family. The 8 Zhao family members wanted to impress Qin Xuan and Han Sen, as they had each unlocked a gene lock. Zhao Heiyang was quite powerful, and he was more than keen to flex his muscles. There was one thing that interested Han Sen a lot, and that was the fact that the Zhao family members' fitness levels were higher than those of most people who had unlocked their gene lock. While they were taking a break, Qin Xuan quietly told Han Sen that the Zhao family had a geno-optimization solution, and that the family members were provided with a special training regime since they were born. With a controlled diet, their genes would actually improve. This was why the Zhao family had greater strength than those who were at a similar level. And that was also one of the many reasons they were pompous braggarts. Qin Xuan, try this. It is a nutrient fluid from angel gene, and it is good for your body. These things cannot be bought at the markets, you know. Zhao Heiyang approached the two and handed over a pen-sized bottle to Qin Xuan. Inside, a transparent purple concoction swirled. Thanks, but I have my own. Qin Xuan did not accept the fluid from his hand, and a hurt look crossed his face. Han Sen was laughing on the inside. The Zhao family members really seemed to think themselves as gods, as if they could do whatever they pleased. The special squad had an important rule, however. Unless the situation was dire and the absolute need arose, squad members were not allowed to accept items from others. This also applied to the people on their team. You drew from your own supply strictly, to avoid problems arising further down the line. Qin Xuan's rejection of the fluid was normal protocol, and even Han Sen would not even think to offer her an item. He was positive Zhao Heiyang knew about this rule, but, perhaps unexpectedly, he sought to bend the rules and offer her the gift regardless. Han Sen listened in on them for a bit, and he felt sorry for her. Zhao Heiyang was so self-obsessed that he could only talk about himself and about the power his family possessed. All Qin Xuan did was smile and nod, without making a single vocal contribution. It wasn't long before Han Sen got tired of listening to the inane blabber and decided to sit next to a tree away from the others. There, he rested his eyes for a bit. He also sent a message to Princess Yin Yang, who was far away right then. On a mountain, a good distance from them, Princess Yin Yang was leading another party. Zero and the Silver Fox were trailing directly behind her, with Wang Yuhang at the back. He appeared to be sulking. Hey, princess, might I ask where we are headed? Wang Yuhang asked miserably. Just follow in silence. Princess Yin Yang sternly responded, giving Wang Yuhang a peeved look. The entire time the party had been traveling, Wang Yuhang had done nothing but complain. He had previously tried to ask Zero, but he felt as if his presence before her was invisible. She didn't respond or even look at him, as if he was nothing but an annoyance. Only Princess Yin Yang would occasionally tell him something, but nothing she said was particularly explanatory or revealing. Princess Yin Yang ignored Wang Yuhang and continued walking. Han Sen's intent for bringing Wang Yuhang and the rest was by no means good. The Zhao family had pretty much forced Han Sen into fighting a super creature, and he was not going to bow to their desires quite so simply. The Zhao family would never expect Wang Yuheng and the rest of Han Sen's team to be following them. Near an ancient tree, a river ran by that was blood red. It was like the gentle gush of a freshly opened wound. Follow this stream of blood and ascend. In about 20 miles, we will see the blood spring and its creature, Zhao Heiyang reminded them. The Zhao family were arrogant, yes, but they weren't dumb. They were borrowing Han Sen's strength to finally slay this super creature of theirs, once and for all. If they couldn't capitalize on his presence amongst them this time, they weren't sure they'd get another chance. According to our deal, you will need to cooperate with us for the length of the fight. And also, you must provide us with the final hit, Zhao Heng told Han Sen. Okay, whatever you say. Han Sen nodded. Han Sen did not say much and simply summoned his Adderade. Zhao Heng and the rest looked at the Adderade with genuine admiration. There was also a glint of envy towards Han Sen. It confused them why a person such as he had been fortunate enough to find a dying super creature he could easily finish off, and then be rewarded with such a pet. Han Sen commanded the Adderade to attack the super creature, while he also sent a message to Princess Yin Yang. The Zhao family spread out and encompassed the area, but little else. Clearly, they were waiting for the Adderade to beat the super creature into a near-death state, so they could swoop in and claim an easy kill. These assholes, Han Sen swore in his heart. He looked at the super creature, then opened his gene lock and scanned its life force. The super creature's energy was all clouded. He could tell that it was a strong creature, but still, the cloudiness indicated it was a first-generation super creature, and therefore nothing he was particularly interested in going up against. Although the Adderade might have been a little stronger than the super creature, the power gap wasn't enough for it to dominate. The super creature was of similar strength to the Adderade, and like the Adderade, it didn't excel in any particular department. That also meant it wasn't weak in any other department either, so it was a well-balanced monster. The Adderade went ahead to slash the monster. Even though no particularly deep wounds were wrought, the attacks were enough to surprise and impress Zhao Heng. In the past, they had tried to lay siege on the monster themselves, but every attempt was a failure, and they could never seem to deal any damage to the beast. Now here they were, watching a pet go up against a super creature, dealing lasting wounds with a greatsword. The sight led Zhao Heng and the rest of the Zhao family members present to view the Adderade with great admiration. But Han Sen's vision was drawn to the blood spring. Instead, the super creature they were fighting was quite strange. He was sure that the super creature was intelligent enough to know it was fighting a losing battle, and that it should be running away rather than staying to fight. But the super creature was determined to remain, and nothing could compel it to flee. There was something strange about this place, and the blood spring in particular. Han Sen used Dongshuan aura to take a look at the blood spring, and he was surprised to see that it abounded with energy. What was coming out was no ordinary spring water, that was for sure. The center of the spring contained life, even. As he watched the crack in the rock, Han Sen suddenly felt the presence of an extremely strong life force. The power he sensed suddenly sent him into a cold sweat. Damn it, inside that crack, a scary creature resides. Han Sen continued to look at the crack on the craggy hill, and suddenly, he felt as if he was being watched. Like the peering of an evil eye, a malevolent gaze had fixated on him. It made his heart race with uncertain panic. Quickly, he deactivated his Dongshuan aura and averted his eyes away from the spring. The creature inside the crack can find my Dongshuan aura. It can even find out where I am through it. Whatever is in there is something ancient, and something evil. The Zhao family have no idea what they are doing, coming here to disturb this place. For all I know, they are openly seeking suicide. Han Sen did not even see what the creature may have been, yet it terrified him even so. And the creature, whatever it may have been, did little else other than look back at him. Whatever the case may be, there was a super creature inside the source of the spring that was more powerful than anything he had ever encountered before. Han Sen was considering whether or not he should grab his little angel and depart. They wouldn't receive any benefits from slaying this super creature, and all the while, he feared the unknown malice was continuing to peep on him. But if Han Sen returned now and didn't finish the job, it would be a waste of time. Han Sen gave another look in the direction of the crack, then turned his head back to watch the super creature engaged with the little angel, then gave up his idea of fleeing. The creature inside the crack did not seem as if it wanted to leave its current abode, and after Han Sen gave it some more thought, he came to the conclusion that he didn't have to escape just yet. If something were to happen, he could escape more quickly than anyone from the Zhao family anyway. So, if the creature was hungry, Zhao Heng and his people would be the first to fill up its tummy. Therefore, there was no need for Han Sen to rush and escape just yet. No matter what happens, stay behind me. Do not run off. Han Sen approached King Xuan and spoke to her in a lowered voice. Why? What is it? King Xuan looked at Han Sen with sudden surprise. The creature was already being suppressed by Han Sen's pet, so it was weird for him to suddenly say something like this to her. I feel as if something is amiss. Whatever it is, it disturbs me. It's an instinct, and my instincts are rarely incorrect. Whatever happens, do not leave my side. Stay near me. If something does indeed go wrong, we have to escape first, Han Sen told her. Okay. King Xuan looked around and did not notice the presence of anything out of the ordinary, but still, she agreed. The little angel's greatsword continued carving marks into the super creature. Despite blood now having dyed its entire coat, it refused to escape the area. It roared to the sky and adamantly remained to fight with the little angel. Zhao Heng, with great excitement, said, Han Sen, tell your pet to put more effort in. Make her deal heavier damage to the super creature and prevent it from escaping if it chooses to. Director Zhao, this is a super creature. This isn't a scuffle between a cat and a dog, Han Sen replied coldly. Zhao Heng didn't say anything in return, acknowledging that this wasn't really something that could be rushed. Unfortunately, the super creature continued to not show signs of wanting to escape. Zhao Heng then commanded his people, who were still surrounding their foe, to move a little closer. If it did want to escape, they could do their part in prohibiting its flight. But the super creature was almost behaving stupidly in its stubbornness to remain. Its inability to fight back against the little angel was plain to see. Yet it continued to do what it could as the gashes and wounds mounted and caused it tremendous pain. It was bleeding heavily now, and its attacks slowed. Death would greet it soon. The little angel was like something holy. It flapped its wings, flew behind the super creature, and slashed the greatly injured neck of the super creature. The deep cleft had now been made in its neck, and the spine looked as if it was ready to snap. More and more blood seeped to the surface and bled to the ground. Han Sen, do not forget your promise. Command your pet to return and we will finish it off, Zhao Heng shouted to Han Sen, as he commanded his people to draw even closer. My job is done here, yes. You can finish it off. Han Sen did not say anything in complaint and simply returned his little angel. He could feel the creature inside the spring begin to move, and a scary aura seep through with the water. The hill now looked frightening, and he suspected the dark menace within was about to escape its subterranean home. The super creature had not yet died, and even if it was killed by the little angel, Han Sen was not willing to walk up and claim the rewards. All he wanted to do was run away as far as he could and end all involvement with these events in this place. The 8 Zhao family members now ran close to the fallen beast and attempted to kill the super creature. They used all the different weapons they had at their disposal, striking the exposed wounds of the dying creature. But then a sudden scream sounded. The dying creature stood up again and leapt onto a man of the Zhao family. It tore the man's head off with its teeth, and its claws tore the rest into shreds. Zhao Heng shouted and used his lance to thrust at the most grievous of the wounds, on the back of the super creature's neck. The creature roared in pain and fell back down to the ground. The rest of the family ran up again and tried to strike the beast simultaneously. Although someone had died, they did not want the little angel to help out anymore, as they were afraid the little angel would finish it off with ease. Although the super creature was on the precipice of death, it had managed to lash out enough to deal damage to numerous members of the Zhao family. But now, the damage it had incurred was too great, and it would soon fall for the last time. Out of the 8 family members, 3 had been killed. The rest had incurred at least one trauma or injury, but the thought of felling a super creature rallied their courage to continue their fight. Let me kill it. Zhao Heiyang peered at the monster that could hardly stand and spoke aloud with great excitement. It pounced on another family member and took off running into the forests. Earlier, the super creature, despite being at an obvious disadvantage, did not run. Now, it was dying and could barely stand. Where had the vigor come from? Go, chase it. Do not allow it to escape. Zhao Heng reacted first, immediately commanding the others to take off after it. But suddenly, they heard the sound of rock breaking. This was a surprise to all of them. They turned around to take a look, and the little hill that was the source of the blood spring exploded outwards. The spring was no longer a crack in the earth, as a giant red centipede writhed out amidst a cloud of dust and spewed rubble. A dark red body that was thicker than the carriage of a train loomed out. A single segment of the centipede was 20 meters long, and its legs wriggled ceaselessly, carrying it towards the fighters. A second later, 2 of the remaining Zhao family were spiked to death under the centipede's wretched legs. The rest of them were almost frightened to death, and their thought of pursuing the escaped super creature quickly evaporated. Running away themselves, they shouted, Han Sen, use your pet to restrain it. Are you kidding me? You want me to send my pet to its demise against a monster such as that? Han Sen called back, as he and King Xuan had already turned to leave. Han Sen, do not forget the deal we made, Zhao Heiyang reminded him. Our deal consisted of me helping you slay the other super creature. I have done my part. This wasn't a part of it, so it is no concern of mine. Han Sen was far ahead of the others, yelling back as he ran alongside Qin Xuan. Zhao Heiyang was furious. The blood centipede was a Goliath, and it terrified them all. This was surely a foe no human could hope to compete with. A second later, the creature's mandibles grabbed another Zhao family member and sloppily devoured him. There were only 3 people of the Zhao family left now, but the blood centipede did not continue to pursue them. Instead, it took off in the direction the other super creature had gone. When Han Sen saw it, his heart jumped. The super creature had been attracted away by Wang Yuheng, but now the blood centipede had, as well. Things were taking a turn for the worse. How can Wang Yuheng be so unlucky? There is always some misfortune waiting to befall him. Han Sen was planning to go after Wang Yuheng, but then stopped and went towards the blood spring instead. What are you doing? Qin Xuan asked from behind. I'm just going to take a look. You get away first, Han Sen said as he ran back. When Zhao Heng saw Han Sen run back, he was amazed, but they didn't dare follow. They watched Han Sen run back all the way to the blood spring, unable to comprehend what his intention might have been. But to them, right then, they thought it better if Han Sen were to get himself killed. The Zhao family had sacrificed many people this day, all to no avail. The creature they sought to kill had gotten away, and all they had incurred were great losses as a result. Han Sen did not care what the Zhao family thought of him. He reached the broken rocks of the spring and jumped beyond. Earlier, when he turned on the Dongshuan Sutra, he had detected the presence of a life force inside it. He already knew there was something in there. And now, while the blood centipede was away, he thought it would be okay to take a proper look at whatever lay inside. Beyond the broken stones was a tunnel that led into a cave. Inside the cave rested a blood-red egg. It was like a football, but it was completely red. The strong life force Han Sen had detected came from the egg. Han Sen was overjoyed at the discovery. He had eaten the Devil Ant King egg not too long ago, so he knew that this had to be some good stuff, too. There was no life Geno essence inside, and it could be eaten to immediately receive Super Geno points. Its consumption was a much easier process than absorbing a life Geno essence. Han Sen had not expected the centipede to create an egg, but regardless, he leapt over and quickly pocketed it, before turning around to exit. Han Sen was still wondering how he might hope to save Wang Yuheng when suddenly, he heard a sharp, monstrous, shrieking sound emitted from the forest. In the distance, he noticed many of the ancient forest trees getting toppled in a wave that moved towards Han Sen, and he figured that the blood centipede had sensed its baby being stolen. Han Sen did not linger, and quickly ran in the direction Zhao Heng had been running. He was much faster than Zhao Heiyang, and quickly managed to catch up with him. Zhao Heiyang looked back with surprise. Han Sen was directly behind him, but behind him, the giant centipede also came. The giant, slithering body was uprooting trees and spoiling the earth as it rampaged towards them. It was like a crazed dragon. What have you done? Why did you bring it back this way? Zhao Heng inquired, in evident anger. Me? Oh, I didn't do anything, Han Sen said, as he continued running forward and leaving them behind. Zhao Heng cursed Han Sen, praying the worst death would strike him and strike him soon. Han Sen had attracted the monster their way, but he was now leaving them behind like bait. They wished they could kill Han Sen. Han Sen was far ahead of them now, due to his speed. The blood centipede, however, looked likely to catch up with the Zhao family members. Han Sen caught up with Qin Xuan, who was still firmly ahead, leading the escape. When he turned to look back, he noticed another person of the Zhao family had fallen victim to the vile creature that chased them. Let's go. Han Sen grabbed onto Qin Xuan's waist, summoned his wings, and flew to the sky. But then he heard the blood centipede roar. It was 100 meters long when looking down, and Han Sen watched it spread transparent blood wings. It took off into the skies towards them. Bollocks, Han Sen thought he could fly away with relative ease. He didn't expect the monstrous foe to possess wings of its own, and it flew with such great haste. It was much faster than the berserk sacred wings. You run that way. Han Sen gritted his teeth and returned to the tangled forest floor. He put Qin Xuan down and ran in another direction, attempting to draw the centipede away. Han Sen successfully drew away the flying centipede, and it went back to chasing him through the forest. Many trees were toppled in its rampage, and many of the forest's other creatures were promptly evicted. Those that could fly soared away in fright, whereas others fled as quickly as they could on foot. Every other creature in the forest seemed terrified of the centipede. Han Sen opened his gene lock and used Dongshuan Sutra to simulate the light sun of God's energy flow. It increased his speed by a good deal, but even then, it wasn't enough to gain a good lead on the foe that pursued him. All he could focus on doing was running as fast as he could and not slacking into the hungry mandibles that were chasing him. This monster was incredibly powerful, and it was something the Adderade would surely struggle to beat. The Adderade wasn't weak, but the size between the two was not comparable. The blood centipede had a unique power that made it far stronger than the Adderade, too. Hansen thought about throwing the centipede's egg away, but he didn't want to. Hansen tried to let the little angel draw the attention of the centipede, but it was as if it had locked onto Hansen, without a care for anything else. The little angel swung her greatsword at the centipede many times, but the creature had countless wriggling legs that blocked each attempted attack. She couldn't get a hit in. Hansen kept running until there were no more trees to evade. After leaving the canopy of the forest behind, he found himself before the slopes of a grand mountain range. He had no idea where he had come to. Hansen had no other choice but to run headlong up the mountain. He circled one of the mountains and tried his hand at fighting the centipede for a bit. Hansen felt strange. When he was in the ancient forest, he had seen many creatures fleeing for their lives. But these mountains were barren, and not a single creature was around. After running the length of 2 mountains, he hadn't managed to see a single other creature. It was a dull, lifeless region composed of gray crags. Few plants grew there also. Hansen did not have the time to stop, poke about and ponder the area he had stumbled into, however. With his gene lock running, he was on a timer. He had been running for half a day, and he was already starting to feel exhausted. His body was in agony, and he feared if he kept going, his body might end up permanently damaged. But still, he couldn't afford to stop, and turning off the gene lock would remove his ability to simulate the light Son of God's energy flow. This would result in his speed decreasing, and the chance of him not being able to outrun the centipede's crazed pursuit. Hansen gritted his teeth and took the centipede egg from his pocket, planning to throw it at the centipede so he could escape the area with life. He turned around to take a look and noticed that the blood centipede was no longer directly behind him. In fact, the centipede was down near the foothills, merely crying out to Hansen. It didn't come after him, as if it were afraid of something. Hansen was surprised, to say the least. He looked around and saw nothing out of the ordinary. While the craggy mountains appeared nearly identical during his run, he had drawn close to a mountain that was different than the others. The mountains around the one he was on were gray and rocky, but the one he was on now was blue. The rocks there appeared to be metallic. He wasn't sure what made this mountain so unique, but the scary centipede only roared and did not come up. Despite its desire for Hansen's blood, all it did was twirl and writhe around, breaking the rocks that peppered the foothills. Its power did not matter in the shadow of the blue mountain, it appeared. Hansen acknowledged something was wrong, and so he quickly cast Dongshuan Aura. Still, he did not notice the presence of anything strange around. There did not seem to be any life on this mountain. Hansen felt relieved, for he was at least out of danger for the time being. But he couldn't relax, for the radius of his Dongshuan Aura was limited and it did not reveal all that may have been there. Hansen then raised his head to look up the mountain. The mountain was massive, and its head rested above the clouds. He could not see what secrets its peak might have hidden. And as for the rest of the mountain, it was as barren as ever. It was entirely blue, and only metallic rocks resided there for decoration. There wasn't even a single blade of grass. What is that blood centipede afraid of? Even with its baby having been nicked, it doesn't dare set foot up here. Something has to be amiss with this place. Hansen looked up the mountain and could not see anything through the mist that cloaked the top. Although Hansen was curious about what may have been up there, he had respect for the proverb that concerned itself with feline mammals and the consequences of their curiosity. Therefore, he resolved to walk around to the other side of the mountain and descend that way in an attempt to escape the centipede. The red centipede still did not dare ascend the blue mountain, and it only stared at Hansen. But wherever he went, the monster carefully followed him. Hansen gritted his teeth again and placed the centipede egg between the rocks of the blue mountain. Then, he went in another direction. He hoped the centipede would remain, showing concern for the egg more than the person who had stolen it. But things did not turn out the way he expected. When the centipede saw its egg, it only enraged the centipede further. It still wouldn't ascend the blue mountain, and instead, it wriggled with greater ferocity as it traced Hansen. Its exclamations were even louder as well, and the pitch of the echo was heightened as its wretched voice carried across the mountain range. The sound of rocks breaking continued under the jittery legs of the centipede as it traced the egg thief. Big marks and clefts were left in each ravaged rock. This guy really wants me dead. Hansen's heart sank. He imagined the best he could do right now was use his little angel to take the egg and lead the monster away. But just as Hansen was willing to do this, he suddenly heard the sound of a bell toll from atop the mountain. Dong, the sound of an ancient bell rung from high above, echoing across the expansive mountains. It caused the energy inside Han Sen to turn into chaos, and he quickly ran Dongshuan's sutra to quell his disturbed flow. Dong, when the bell rang again, a weird power caused the energy inside him to coil and swirl in turmoil once more. Han Sen gritted his teeth and continued casting Dongshuan's sutra to soothe the restless energy and fight back against the mysterious tone of the bell. The bell's sound was quite beautiful. It possessed a certain power that cast what seemed like a sonic wave, dispelling the mist and clouds that obscured the peak of the mountain. Like a curtain being pulled, the entirety of the Blue Mountain was then revealed. Han Sen looked at the Blue Mountain's peak and tried to see what was there. He was eager to learn where exactly the bell had told from. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and enable notifications so you don't miss the next chapter.